Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Halftime with Kate Bizzy. Today, for episode 65, we have Brongo joining us, and he is the owner of CSROI.com. If you don't know about CSROI.com, I suggest you pay attention and click the link in the description to go check it out, because this site right here could help you make money with your investments with Counter-Strike if you are into gambling, that if you want to call it that. Very awesome site, very awesome dude that's working on it, and I think a lot of people listening to this can learn from it. And especially if you go to the website and check out all the stats, you can see your ROI for each case, and there's so many different stats that you can just look at and get an actual, instead of visualizing in your head, oh, this is what's in this case, this is how much money I can make. The information is right in front of you on this website, and it is a great tool to use to invest your money into Counter-Strike and see what happens with it. He also talks about adding the Genesis terminal, which he is in the process of doing, but it is a little bit different than your typical case, so it's kind of being a bit of a problem, but he is working on it, and I'm sure he's going to get it fixed up. But we're going to jump right into things. So if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing with these podcasts in the comments. We upload every single Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. I know Brongo is from Australia. I don't know how many of the people watching this would also be from Australia. I know the timing is going to be very bad for you guys, but it is what it is. Also, I noticed for some reason that the halftime mouse pads are not listed on the Etsy shop anymore. So I have since fixed that, and they are back up on the shop. So if you want to get yourself a new mouse pad, support the channel, and support the podcast, go for it. I appreciate it. But we will catch you guys on the outro. We are going to jump right into things.
Good day, mate.
Hey man, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. How's the microphone sound? Is the bird sounds coming through or anything?
No, it sounds crispy. It sounds good.
Good to hear.
I've got a bit of a storm. Looks like it's just rolling in now. I don't know if it's going to take my power out or not, so fingers crossed that it
Oh
doesn't.
shit, yeah. See what happens.
So let's talk about the lore on how you got into playing Counter-Strike. How did this all happen?
Uh, Many years ago, I wasn't allowed to play as a kid. What we call in Australia MA 15 plus games, which basically just meant they recommend you're 15 or older to play shooter type games. And then I never really had too much of a gaming computer, but had a big iMac from my dad hand me down. Counter-Strike Global Offensive was on the iMac. Eventually, gave it a go, got into Arms Race. That was my first shooter. Absolutely terrible. I struggled to get a couple kills, and then just slowly snowballed from there. Just enjoyed the experience. Picked up my first skin probably about a month later. It was a 5.7 Urban Hazard, I think. Very
Okay,
old one, but I love that thing. Yeah, it's just been a journey from there.
right on. And the fact that you remember your first ever skin, Jesus, that's crazy.
It was a bit of a moment. When you're a kid, you don't have a lot of disposable income, let alone stuff,
Yeah,
on your Steam wallet. So it meant a lot.
yeah, for sure. And of course, I'm assuming, especially now knowing that you remember your first ever skin, I'm assuming that CS skins were a pretty big interest with you, as you know, many of us players are. We just have an incredible heart on for anything, cool colored pixels and all that. Can you tell me the story on how you kind of got introduced with skins, and what it was that really grabbed you about it?
Yeah. So I didn't care for skins at all at the young age, not having any money to put into it or anything. It wasn't really considered an investment or something where you would ever get your money back then. Third party marketplaces were pretty, I don't know, not big back then, so you didn't ever expect to cash out. But I did ask a mate, like, oh look, what do you recommend? I really love the 5.7. Ended up with the 5.7 Urban Hazard. Watched as like Cato 15 went by, had no money or anything, and thought who would spend, $1 to get a sticker on their gun? Who would give a rat's ass about that? And then, yeah, no, here we are today. Eventually, slowly started. Actually, probably the biggest event that really got me further into Counter Strike was Operation Phoenix got removed from the active drop pool. There were about, I want to say, 5-6 Australian cents, so you're talking about 4 cents US, something like that.
Hmm.
And I decided I want some money for this trip to Spain I'm doing for school eventually. I'm gonna invest it and take the money out in time for the Spanish trip,
No way.
and hope I can make a little bit of profit margin. By the time the Spanish trip came around, about 6 to 12 months later, I think they were at the same price, so I left them there, and then I slowly cashed those out, turned them into other stuff, and got a bit of a snowball going from, I'd probably say, the dollar mark onwards. So I guess that was the first experience into understanding what this market could do and the power of the cases, and a consumable good being an investment in a game that's been running on for decades now.
Dude, and in the early days too, like, I don't know, man. It's just so different now. Like, back
Mm.
then, sure, maybe you'd invest some money into stuff, but it's not like today where, you're just gonna be like, oh, I'll dump, $500 on this item and see where it is in 6 months or 12 months or whatever. It's that's just how it is now. It's so weird. And then, you got the whole market manipulation thing. Like, this is something where, like, people make good money doing this. Like, people are full-time traders off of this shit. It's just so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely developed over the years from just being, oh, you can spend 10 cents or $50 on a skin if you really want, and then you can sell it up to someone later. Being what in my mind was probably some of the earliest like crypto type game scenario. It's not really the same, but it had the same sort of framework with economists that like working for Valve to plan this stuff out perfectly so that if the game was kept alive, which it has been, that these things should slowly appreciate in value, and Valve have taken care of it pretty well since then.
Yeah, I mean, they're always one step ahead of the curve. And the Genesis terminal, another thing, obviously pretty controversial, but it's another thing that they invented that now they're going to be the day one sellers that reap all the benefits of the idiots in the community spending $1,500 for something fact new. It's crazy.
I think the craziest point is that we don't even know like what are people in the market going to be happy to pay for. I think most people, especially these first few days, aren't going to want to sell stuff for cheaper than they bought it for. So how that's going to lead, it's going to be a very interesting scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited, kind of excited. I'm kind of scared, really, to see how this plays out in the future, but time will tell, I guess.
Yeah.
This episode of Halftime with K Bizzy is brought to you in part by Pricempire.com. Pricempire.com is absolutely loaded with essential tools for any skin enthusiast. Whether it be their blog, their price comparison app, the trending deals, or your personal inventory tracker, I mean, Price Empire really has it all. Pricempire.com is trusted by more than 1 million users on Trustpilot to ensure everybody that it is a fair and legit website. Pricempire.com is linked in the description. Go step your skins game up today.
Yeah, no. Uh, Doing CSROI for so long now, it's been a multi-year project, and how I sort of developed my programming skills. It's all self-taught and everything. Um, it's a very scary thing to try to work out how to do these terminals in an ROI type format now, considering it's got that feedback loop of if you don't accept an offer or do you accept an offer, the price will change. So I've got to somehow incorporate that in the website. It's going to be a big jump.
Okay. I didn't know that you were self-taught and everything. Do you have any like partners, or are you just a
No,
one-man crew?
mostly a one-man crew. Very early days, I had my brother, who's also a programmer. He's got a little bit more experience than that. He got me to help me set up the back end and did a lot of the code originally. And then from that first month onwards, it's all pretty much been just a solo effort of bringing my ideas to life and trying to support it and support the community.
That's fucking awesome, man.
Thanks. It's been a long journey.
Like, I don't know. I'm the furthest from when it comes to coding, like, I don't know shit about it. I had to make Pong in high school, the game Pong.
Hmm.
I struggled
Yep.
so hard with it, and I never looked at coding ever since then. I was like, fuck this, dude. It's so confusing. And when I go to a site like yours, And you have all of this information all over the place, and the most important part being is that the site's responsive, it's fast, it's easy to understand, all of the information's there. Like, I think it's
Appreciate
definitely
that.
the most essential, one of the most essential tools for sure in the whole community. And when it comes to making money and like not losing money, instead of just going, oh, I'm gonna spend $50 on these cases tonight and see what happens, when in reality you could be pulling reds that are like $2. Like, your site tells
Yeah.
people this stuff so that they know not to invest in certain things.
Yeah, the original idea. So there was a predecessor to CSROI, cases.jonesy.moe. Bit of a shout out there. The guy who made that made the idea of what an ROI for a case is. So, what do you expect the return to be? But when I was looking at his website, one, I wanted to improve the feature set, like adding all the stickers, autographs, souvenirs, patches, all the sorts. So you can look at anything in the game and see, okay, do I expect to lose money opening this? What's my chance to actually get something good? Um, and then secondly, I also found reading through his frequently asked questions, he talked about his method of calculating odds for wears on items. So what will happen with an item is it will have like a float range of 0 to 0.5, for instance, and that'll mean it will have a easier chance of getting better wares because it can't go lower than 0.5, and how that ends up calculating in a very strange way Valve has done it. But it turned out that predecessor didn't properly calculate wares. It just assumed, okay, there is no battle scarred, so I'm going to share the percent chance of battle scarred happening across all other wares. And I just thought, oh, that's not really a great way to do it. You're missing a lot of data there. I can get this done right. And that was sort of the genesis of CSROI, was trying to build on that idea and get these calculations done right. And then from there, it's just been such a passion project. I've wanted to show how those numbers are calculated, add different ideas like your cost to unbox. It was a big step at one point in the UI to add a sort of investment ROI, which I feel like I could do better, and I will get to at some point. That's a bit. It's got some issues and sorts of stuff, but yeah, it's really snowballed from there, and I'm glad to get so much community support from now. And I suppose now the goal is just make sure that anybody unboxing cases or using their armory stars can know how bad it is to get the thing that they want to get, or how good it can be. Because you can look at something like a music kit box and it can have nearly 120% return. So there is small scenarios where if you do really want to somewhat gamble in this game, because it's hard to say any word other than that, there is ways to do it in a responsible way instead of just guessing that you might get a red, and spending 150 cases worth, which is a lot of money, just to get that one red.
Dude, and it's like, I have a buddy of mine right now. It's not for red, it's for gold, but he's, I think, at 1,800 cases since he's opened a gold. Like,
1800. Oh, far
1,800.
out.
It's crazy,
Yeah,
man.
no. I'm not one to open too many cases myself, seeing how bad they are, but I
Yeah.
do bite the bullet every now and then. Like, when there's a new case released in general, it's a pretty good time to unbox them. And that's how I've unboxed my only ever gold, being a pair of Moto gloves Polygon in like field tested.
Okay.
Still hold on to it as a bit of a memory, like I like to associate a lot of my skins with events that happened in time. Like I'll do low float trade ups and that'll sit in my inventory for years. One of my favorite skins is a blue phosphor in 000 float that I traded up to around when it
Oh.
came out on my birthday as well. So there's
Oh,
so much
hell
memory
yeah.
there. It would be hard to sell that in the future.
Fuck yeah,
Uh,
man. And I wanted to ask too, this is just from my, I guess, not just being too knowledgeable in the back end of coding and stuff like that.
hmm
But when I'm thinking of like, okay, let's say I know I'm just gonna say the Genesis terminal, even though I know you said
Sure.
that there's still some work that you're having to do. Let's just pretend
Yeah.
that it's a case like any other case in the game.
Yeah.
When a new case comes out, like how do you begin your like calculations? Like how do you figure out what I like it just blows my mind just thinking about it. I can't even really put it into words, but like it just seems like such a big task.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely like a framework to it. So I have some community supporters that provide some of the pricing to me. Some of the pricing is manually retrieved by like a price scraping script, stuff like Buff. I retrieve manually myself. Um, but like the supporters like Skin Ledger and Better Flow that provide pricing to me, so that part's not too bad. And then websites like CS Float have their own little price sheet, so you can get prices not too difficult. I also try to provide all the prices I use on the website in a little pricing file if anyone ever needs to use that. So it helps them out because I know at one point I was using a little pricing sheet. So it always helps just to have access to pricing easily. A lot of services will charge you a lot of money for that. So after you got the pricing, the next step is just having the framework of a case. So uh, if you get a list of all the items in the case, their rarities, and then very important part is what the minimum and maximum float each item can get to. You order it in the right way. You follow Valve's rules where every rarity is 5 times rarer than the last, except gold and except one weird case with industrial to mil spec. I won't go too much detail, but if you lay that all out perfectly, and then you get the pricing implemented on top, then you kind of just combine it all together. It all gets conglomerated into a few data points.
Damn.
Um, yeah, it was a bit of a lengthy process to get the framework started in the first place, but nowadays, when a new case is to come out, it's relatively simple to just input all the items, and then the code will constantly keep it up to date and do all the calculations for you. That's the beauty of programming a system like this is that it's all pretty self-reliant.
For sure. And you kind of just touched on it a little bit too, but one of the things when I was, coming up with my questions and stuff is I was just thinking
Hmm.
about it. Like one day you came up with this idea and you made this website, and I'm just thinking, holy shit, this guy had to have been days and days and days with all of the cases, all of the sticker capsules, the souvenir pack. Like, oh my God. I don't know how you do it, man. It's super commendable. That is a crazy amount of work.
Thank you. Yeah, the initial getting all the prices, floats, images, items, all that was a bit of work, but now that it's all up and running, it's pretty good. You just got to add the new things as they come along, and you know, change something when like the armory page changes. You just got to change what is discontinued in the armory, stuff like that. Um, yeah, it's not too bad, but the initial work was pretty crazy. I remember like one of the first thing when you open a case on CSROI is something called rarity values, and that's been a bit of a conscient. I don't know the word. The conscient. God, I can't get it. Contentious, maybe point where
Okay.
people a bit mixed feelings about it. The idea behind it is that it's meant to tell you, okay, if I'm looking at the best case right now, CS:GO weapon case free, 1% of the value comes from the red, the CZ Victoria, because nobody wants it.
Hmm.
So it's meant to be, in a way, a prize sheet of like what you're looking for in a case. The best items will become the biggest pictures, and it also just lays out like all my values in the golds. I shouldn't be opening this if I don't think I'm going to get a gold or open enough cases for a gold, stuff like that. And that was just an idea that I remember it coming to me in a dream while I was working out the idea of the site and that like how am I going to tell users where the value in a case is coming from? And I just dreamed it up, wrote it down and like drew it out in a notebook, and that was in the very first iterations of CSROI, and it's been at the beginning it was very difficult to explain to users how that tool works and how to display the data properly. People would look at 40% over in milspec and go, oh, does that mean I have a 40% chance of getting a milspec? And it's been thought in my head like, do I swap around this data how I show it and that? But I think at this point, it's gotten to the stage where if I move around the layout of a tool like this, people already have got used to it. So then I've got to overwrite them learning that in the first place. And yeah, there's a lot of steps to getting a UI to be easy to work with customers, or not, users really, because I try my best for CSROI to be a completely free service. And while
Yeah.
there are advertisements, I only advertise with companies that I would personally use, and I will never advertise any gambling sponsors because I understand how easy it is to convert someone who's going to open a case to open a case online where it might have a better return. The idea of this website is meant to steer you away from cases, or at least explain how bad a case is, not to try to recommend you to gamble in some other way. I just don't think that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah, and I mean that sounds like the most responsible way to, maintain running this thing. Like I know some people are just absolutely completely against gambling and they hate it. I
Mm,
I understand it's like anything, it's like drinking, it's like smoking, everything, all this stuff is addicting. But I personally
absolutely.
I mean gambling for me from time to time I don't struggle like I don't have any addictions or anything, so
Mm.
I can control myself, but I know there's others out there that can't. But for you to completely steer away from that and you know just not even go near that, I think is a good idea. And it just takes one tweet for someone to go, "Oh my god, look at Brongo, he's doing gambling ads on the website," and then half the world's gonna hate you for like a week. And then you're gonna have to
Yeah.
deal with that. But um, yeah, another thing I wanted to bring up too is I think it's just really amazing. Like Counter Strike is, I forget what episode I was talking about it on and who I was talking about it with, but
Mhm.
it's just this game where the community we have the strongest community out of any game, I swear. Like if there's something that the community has questions about, Valve typically doesn't have the answers for us. So it takes other community members, yourself being a great example of this, to come up with something like CSROI and provide all of this information that isn't really out there on too many, different platforms. You have things like CS Float, you have things like Pricempire.com, which shows you a bunch of stuff there too. And I think it's just super cool, like people like you and others in the community that just provides something like just so awesome for the community. Like it just really shows how strong this community is. And I don't know, I think it kind of just re-solidifies how goated Counter Strike is really.
Absolutely. I think there's a couple parts to that. Like, one, Valve makes their system relatively open. Like, it wouldn't have been shocking if Valve at the start said, "No, we're not going to let you trade your skins for money or anything. We're going to lock you into the marketplace," like PUBG tried to do at one point and ultimately failed. Um, they've left it pretty open for the community to do what they want and provide a lot of the services and data so that we can let our creativity run wild, and that's a great sort of cornerstone to Valve. Obviously, they have their problems, their issues, um, but they do support community efforts relatively well by at least letting them run and leaving them to their own. Yeah, great services you mentioned there for sure. Actually, one of the people that really did help start up CSROI in such a small way, but such a helpful way, was Step, the creator of CS Float.
Oh
Um,
wow.
Early days of CSROI, it used to run a full-on backend that would constantly respond to every user query, which has its own issues. Um, Basically, the more your user base builds up, or if you get some nasty users, they can try to exploit that and make your website cost you a lot of money. And he recommended going to a static site solution, which, being self-taught, I had no idea what that meant, but that essentially meant create everything a user could possibly want on an update. So, create all of the snakebite cases data, and then when a user wants to look at that, it'll pull that exact copy of the data that's already been made. And that
Oh.
is able to be done in a way where it costs absolutely nothing. That's been another cornerstone of CSROI is trying to make it as minimal cost as possible while being able to provide like still a great service, reactive, responsive, give you all the data. Um, it's not the easiest thing to do, and it's going to have issues with stuff like the terminal. But because I wanted to be a hobby project, something I didn't want to rely on too many others for or have any major costs involved, that was a pretty important thing. And it also, I think, goes to show that if you guys out there have an idea where you want to create something, just do it. You know,
Yeah.
it's not easy by any means. It's going to take some steps to learn. And, some people might hate me for saying this, and I didn't have it the entire time, but I use it somewhat to this day. Services like ChatGPT and that, some people call it vibe coding. They can get you in the door, get you started on your projects. And I suppose my rule with ChatGPT and stuff like that is that if it's creating code you understand, you read through it, you could create that yourself, then you're doing well. If you're
Mm-hmm.
taking code from ChatGPT and not understanding what it's doing, you're not going to be able to maintain or change or update or fix that code in the future when bad things happen. So there's plenty of opportunity now to create anything you want. It's there's so many services out there in the world that can be run entirely free with all these sorts of website hosting solutions. CSROI currently, the backend is run on something called Cloudflare Pages, which is completely free, and it used to be run on GitHub Pages, which is also completely free to run a website off of. So you got an idea, just do it. It's all possible.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. And AI is, people like to just, you know, it's such a useful tool, but so many people
Hmm.
just do so much weird bullshit with it, and it puts a
Yeah,
bad rap on it. But there's so
it's
much
got its good
good.
and bad side for sure.
Yeah, it's just like anything, really. But
Absolutely.
even outside of AI, like another great thing about the Counter Strike community is you really can just like I mean, you're a perfect example too for this. I reached out to you and, wanted to get you on here. Boom, here we are talking. There is so many people out in this community where you can just reach out to them and ask them questions and, establish friendships and like everybody helps each other out and it's really cool.
Yeah,
Sure there's, the shitheads out
always the
there.
bad eggs,
Yeah,
but
exactly. But
the
for the most
general
part,
community is always pretty well stuck together. You be a genuine person, and there'll be someone out there willing to help you.
absolutely. 100%. And back to CSROI, I wanted to ask this question for you. There's a lot of filters and a lot of information scattered all across the site. I wanted to know, did you kind of design this a certain way where people who use it properly can actually kind of almost guarantee essentially that they see some profit down the road? Is there like a strategy to follow, or is it more of just like putting the information out there to get users to understand what to do?
Yeah. The idea is it's meant to be absolutely base information. It's as far as I understand, I'm self-taught. I got my own issues, all the sort. Giving people investment advice, like if you're focusing on the investment side, is not a great idea. And at the bottom of at least the rankings page, I think, yeah, okay. At the bottom of the rankings page, it describes how the investing ROI and historical data isn't considered investing advice. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. So I'm trying my best to just give as relatively a raw information point as I could. So if you put the investing type for 1 year and you look at something like the snakebite case, you can see it's got a 270% investing ROI, meaning it's roughly tripled in a year. And you could go and click on the page there, go to the history section, use the graph and go, oh, I see, it started all the way at 20 cents. The idea is just meant to be get the data out there and then not have any opinion on it. Try to make the most unopinionated data. If someone wants to look at it, it's there. If they don't, they can ignore it. A big point of CSROI upgrading to this second version of the UI, there was an initial first version that used essentially just a table to display all the cases, and some people don't like it's changed to a grid system. I see like why. and I'm not sure if I'll ever add that sort of opportunity back. But it also had the rarity values and a simulator in a whole different coding language, upgraded to the second version UI, and added investing ROI as one of the key extra features. A lot of people basically didn't even want it to be on the website to begin with. They said, this is like useless. Why would I look at this instead of looking at the Steam market? And I think it's grown on people over the years. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. I just think trying to conglomerate as much data together and just letting people form their own opinions is the best way to go about it. There's obviously some data missing. At some point, I've got to add individual item pricing graphs. Thankfully, so much of the rest of the community has services that do stuff like that. Like you mentioned, Pricempire. So it's not as required as a feature. But I suppose, yeah, at the end of the day, the idea is to not really provide exact advice, just give people the raw data and let them develop their own opinions. So give them the raw data of what the pricing looks like for the armory, what the average return is. They can make their decision from that information. They might decide, oh, the graphics got 190% return and the character craft stickers got 200% return, but I don't want to open stickers, so I'll try the riskiest thing and just
Yeah.
leaving that information on the table.
Yeah, no, I think it's great, the more information you put in it, like it to put it this way, with your website, with how much information's here, and let's say I had $500 I wanted to put in a Counter-Strike, you make it really easy for someone to acknowledge and understand and form an opinion on what could be the next best thing to invest in. You know what I mean? And I think it's
Absolutely.
like when I only wish that I knew this when I was playing, 10 years ago when I was 15, 16 years old. And I was just, got my first job, bought my PC, didn't have bills, and I just started pissing away all my money. I wish I had something like
Yep.
this. I wouldn't be in the situation of like reflecting on all the thousands I've just fucked off for no reason. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm very grateful that I made a dumb decision to invest into Phoenix cases and then I couldn't even get that money back because it embellished in my mind really early on the power of investing, where if you've got that money sitting to the side and you're not going to spend it anyway, you're going to slowly lose that money to inflation. You invest it in something you believe in. You might not believe in cases at some point in the future. Fair enough. Take your money out. No stress at all. But it's great to get that idea in your head that you can make some decent returns with your money if you're willing to put a bit of effort in there. And it's just crazy. A video game is providing such a great service for that. Obviously, there's pump and dump scenarios nowadays, and it works very optimized. So yeah, it's a bit more difficult, but there's always plenty of scenarios. It was pretty easy to predict the fracture case leaving next, for example, and you could have bought that and resold that already for a 50% return. And
Mhm.
that's not something you expect in regular markets at all.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to talk about the pump and dump. We're obviously talking about Stockholm here.
Mm,
This just happened not long ago. I just like to talk about this with people you know, just to make conversation about the skins market and what it is nowadays and stuff like that.
yeah, for
Um
sure.
like, what do you make of all of the stuff surrounding skins in the past couple months here? We've had random things like the leaded glass factory new M4 through the roof, AK point disarray factory new through the roof, other random factory new skins, the Stockholm stickers and capsule. Like, we've
Mm,
seen market manipulation in the past. I like to nerd out talking about stuff like this. Like, what do
for
you think
sure.
maybe was the cause of this? And do you think Valve will make any type of actions against events like this happening in the future, or do you think this will kind of just always be a thing from time to time?
Yeah, I think as you know, Valve likes to stay hands off as much as possible. They tend not to intervene unless they think it's going to cost them or cost their customers, which I suppose in the pump and dump scenario does cost customers, but it's also they want to allow an open market whenever they possibly can. I did at one point talk to someone on Twitter who claimed to be a relatively big guy in the pump and dump with the EG, but talking later on to other people, and it seems like he was just trying to get other people into the pump. He was never one of the big guys at all. He was just trying to pump his own investment a bit further and pretend to be one
Oh.
of the bigger guys. But it seems like there's two things with these recent pumps. So the EG being the crazy one, and some Stockholms, and that was like it seems like a bit of a market frenzy where the idea is, the EG was slowly going up, definitely beyond natural demand from people buying it up. But as soon as it started at a certain point, it just did that crazy triple, quadruple sort of demand in like within a week period,
Hmm.
and just absolutely crashed. It just seems like it hit a critical mass with the pumping group, and as far as I can see from other people talking around the place, it seemed like a couple of the big people in these pumping groups just decided to sell off as fast as possible. I was lucky enough to have a few of the stickers at least, and I did sell them slowly, uh, and almost got caught with the last quarter of those stickers in the very dump. I remember it being 1 a.m. and just looking again and seeing it went down again by another 50 Aussie dollars. And I thought, no, that's it. I'm going to get all of these out of my inventory as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and you could make more profit, you can lose more profit. At the end of the day, if I'm getting a 200 times return, even if it could have been a 700 times return, um, you can't be mad at something like that. That's just ridiculous numbers. You take your money, you move on. No
Yeah.
point stressing about that. But yeah, it definitely seems like pumping groups for specifically the Stockholm just got really popular, especially in the Chinese market by the seams of it. And a few decided to dump, which just led to an absolute cascade of people dumping these stickers. Long term, I think, they'll slowly recover. Do I think the EG is the best sticker in the Legends capsule? Absolutely not. It was the cheapest one, and that's why I bought a few of those back then in the day. And then the factory new, I think, is a very different but unique scenario because it's been a pump that's been going on for a longer time period. And I think the people that are running these pumps have relatively good knowledge of the Counter Strike market. Some things like the point disarray are already starting to pull back. Just looking right now, they have on Steam they hit about 850 Aussie dollars, whatever that converts to, and now they're all the way back down to about 500 Aussie dollars
Oh,
in
okay.
a 2 week period. So there's some pullback, but I think the people that are running these pumps for specifically factory new have some decent idea of the market. Um, just because if you pick the right factory news, or at least in general, if you're picking factory news, that is the least supply sort of part of the market. And it's also considered, the holy grail part of the market. If somebody decides, I really want this skin, and they got money, they're not going to settle for second best at minimal wear. They're going to buy factory new. So
Yeah.
they knew that if they pump these prices up, even if it's quadruple for the factory new of the minimal wear, some people are going to buy. So they chose what they're buying pretty perfectly. They never went for minimal wear. I'm still a little bit confused why StatTrack was left alone. Maybe so low supply it's hard to pump sort of scenario, because
Hmm.
10 times rarer for StatTrack. But they were pretty smart in their process. It wasn't just a random pick and choose. They
Okay.
they affected StatTrack. No, sorry, they affected factory new across the market to the point where purples and blues in factory new were going up a ton in price because you can trade those up even further. And now I think we're getting a little bit of a pullback from the trade up market, sort of adapting and everything to that.
It's really just an absolutely crazy, like, it's a crazy thing. Like, Valve can't do anything to people. It's just an open, like, it's like a gray area, and it's so crazy to me that this stuff happens, and it's just like, theoretically you could get like 500 people and invest in a bunch of shit and manipulate the market, cause the FOMO, and then just, make thousands to hundreds of thousands depending on how you do it.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's not something you really ever expect, especially compared to the old days. But when you consider it to crypto, small altcoin pump and dumps, if you think of it, and this is what talking with that Chinese sort of leader that wasn't really a leader kind of put in my mind is if you treat it like a stock market or a crypto altcoin sort of market, being a factory new small supply, and there's always relatively going to be buyers, it's pretty possible to pump up the prices of these low supply but high demand items.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. I wanted to ask you back to CSROI for a minute. What's next for CSROI? I know you said that you're working on the Genesis terminal and stuff like that, but when it comes to new features or, maybe different design layout or anything at all that
Sure.
you got going for CSROI, do you have anything planned for the future, or do you kind of just take it day by day, one step at a time sort of thing?
Um, because it's been such a long hobby project and that, I've got this list of ideas and that, and I always love to get feedback from anybody. So I always add that to the list. It might not always make it onto the site or make it onto the site in a timely manner, but I've always got ideas in the hangar. One that's been cooking for a long while now is I've made, at least for the M4 Solitude and Charms. Charm Colors is one of the tools on the website where if you have a selected charm, there's a little slider and an RGB value, and it goes for a YouTube video showing at what charm template, uh, a charm looks like. So if you decide, oh, I really want a glamour shot that's extremely blue, I guess I've got to target around about 95,000 um as my charm pattern number I'm looking for. So the idea is to expand that to skins. I've been running in the background for months, essentially a rendering of, well, not rendering, it is Counter-Strike 2 running, and there's a little Python uh, app, I suppose you might call it, constantly typing in console commands and opening inspect links to get a seamless skin viewer where in about, I think it's a 14-minute time period, it will look over all 1000 patterns and show them seamlessly going in the inspect. I've already got that out for the Solitude skins and maybe something else, but I've been running that in the background for months now because it takes a very long time to be able to seamlessly uh, get the skins to do an inspect animation. um, and I'm getting very close to having that done. But the idea is meant to be, if you ever want to look at all the patterns and find which ones you like a lot, the video is right there to show you. And hopefully, I can turn that also into a little animated shop sort of system where, you know, I want to look up M4, it'll show me, all the M4 A1Ss, all doing a little animation of what they look like in game quickly, and then you can go deeper into what all the patterns look like, that sort of scenario. So that's something that's been cooking in the background but takes a lot of time. And while I've been doing studies, I don't mind leaving it there. It's a little bit, the website's been a bit on the back burner. Always got ideas, always want to do a bit more, but my time's taken away from me a little bit. So I've definitely got ideas to go through. That it's just going to take time to get back to it. At one point, I was updating the website roughly every month with a different um, feature, but I haven't been able to do that in roughly, what's that? Probably about 2 months. And now this terminal system requiring a feedback loop of what are people receiving as an offer so that I can tell them on average what the next offer is going to be, is it good or bad. That's going to be a very in-depth system, and I'm glad that I've taken on studies in programming because I'm not sure I'll be able to develop it without the skills I've been learning over this time. It's not going to be easy compared to the rest of this website here. Um, it can't just react solely on what the market price is anymore.
Yeah, but I'm sure once you get it figured out, then if there's other terminals that come out in the future, which it
Oh
seems like
yeah,
there
for
might be,
sure.
then you already have the structure for it, so then you're good to go.
Absolutely. It's just about getting that initial idea. It was like building this website in the first place, where, you know, getting the code all there to handle all the prices and all the wares and then all the rarities and how to deal with the chances for each. Once that's set up, it's been easy. Once I set up this terminal idea, hopefully the idea is to make it scalable, where they put out some new terminals in the future, like you say, it'll be easy setup, all done. It's
Yeah.
just going to be this initial startup process.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm sure you'll figure it out pretty soon. I mean, you've come this far, so it's a matter of time.
Yeah. No, I think one of the biggest steps in that is just the fact that I'm going to need to do some user authentication with Steam, or something along those lines, because if I'm going to get offer data from users, there's a chance that someone could be a bad actor and try to just give me really wrong bad offers and try to tell me, oh yeah, this is what I'm receiving. Um,
Oh, I see
and
what
that
you're
can really
saying.
skew off the data and that. So there's a lot of different security stuff involved with that, like saying, oh, okay, this guy's shown me these offers. Do I trust this guy? Yeah, these offers are right. Nah, these offers are bad. Don't use that in the data set. And that's going to be a big step. It's not. I'm hoping I can get it done in this 2 week time period while I've got no studies. That's definitely the goal. But I got to be realistic. This is going to be the biggest project I've done on CSROI yet. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
got me excited, but it's got me scared. It's got a bit of both.
yeah, it's one of those ones. I know how that is, man. I know what you mean. But dude, that was the last question I had for you. So thank you again. For the end of the podcast, I just kind of like to shine the spotlight over to the guest. So obviously CSROI is a big talking point, but if there's anything that you want to share, if it's anything maybe that we didn't cover with CSROI or any other type of project that you have in the works or anything that you want to promote for yourself, I always like to shine the spotlight over to the guest and give them the opportunity to do that. So the floor is yours if you want to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, thank you for having me on. Always, anybody out there you want to reach out to me, I try my best to be responsive. Um, Probably best way to achieve that is to try to send me a message on Twitter. There's times if people ask me stupid questions, and I wake up early in the morning, I might not have the perfect answer for you, or I might tell you to do the research yourself or something. But I always try to do my best to support the community out there because it is the community that's made CSROI into what it is today. It's grown so stupendously. I've gotten multiple sponsors now that I love working with for the most part. Well, not for the most part. They all support me very well, and I would recommend all the services that I advertise on the website, and I would only work with people that I would actually use the service for. Um, Really looking forward to the future. The hope is to one day be able to rely on the website as a full-on career. And if you want to follow me with the journey, keep using the website. I'll be so happy. If somebody creates something better, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we are a great big community trying to support each other. I'm so proud and happy of how far we've come along, and stay along for the ride. There's plenty more planned, and I'm trying my best to slowly give back to the community. And uh, you know, this I see CS2 only getting better and better. There's so much to go along. I think if you play CS2 just game wise on the first launch, the when it just got out of the beta and it became the proper game itself, it was in a pretty rough stage. It's still
Yeah.
got its issues today, but you got to be patient. And Valve in general has never done anything to try to ruin the economy or the game. They're trying their best to keep it in a great state, and it's only going to get better.
Alrighty, everybody, and that will do it for today. Brongo, salute, mate. I honestly just love how the community is just so passionate and just. It's like there's just so many people that want to provide something for this community. And since Counter Strike's beginnings, it's been a community heavy game. Like the community honestly carries this game. So to see a guy like Brongo adding to the members of the community that brings something so important to the table, I give my hats off to him, man. He's an awesome dude. Make sure you guys go check out my links in the description. And don't forget to check out Brongo's links in the description. Follow him on Twitter and check out CSROI.com. Help yourself out, okay? But we will catch you guys next week, next Friday. We are back with another crazy episode, and we will catch you then. Till next time, everybody.